This video will cover the 4 possible variations you could get at the end of Lily Leapers and how to blitz through them with ease. How people normally go through Lily Leapers is that they jump on a pad and just float to the next one in line. This isn't optimal due to the fact that you have to float all the way to the pad. Instead, what speedrunners will do is that they will dive cancel or dive onto a pad and then immediately dive once they're close to another pad. This action is almost instantaneous. In order to get the best time possible on this map, spawn really matters. The best possible place to spawn or god spawn is the extreme left or the extreme right. The reason being, going to the sides is significantly faster than going through the middle. You will then dive cancel your way through the pads by diving on a pad and then immediately cutting your airtime by diving again. And once you reach the section with the 3 small lily pads, dive onto the middle one and do the same for the other small pads. Dive along the pads, and once you reach the big pad towards the end, dive onto it and dive right when you're about to reach the floor pad. You then should be able to skip the middle floating pad and hit the last row. You can overshoot your mark sometimes, so practice this one in particular. Once you've done the water section and have reached the middle pad section, you dive onto the floor pad and move your character to either the left side or the right side. Then dive onto that pad and move your character to the middle pad and dive onto it once again. If you're ahead of the pack and have done all the skips correctly, take the left side because the floating pad will be there by the time you get there. If you're a bit behind, take the right side instead. You essentially dive onto the floor pad and move your character to the pad nearest to you. However, if you get the hard mode variant, which is this, you dive onto the floor pad and just move your character to the pad in front of you and just move your character to the next pad in line. Just move your character to the pads, and with any luck, you'll blitz through the section. The section after this is a breeze. Just dive onto the floor pad, and if the floating pad is in front of you, you go to that and you'll make it. For the ending section, you can get up to 4 variants as of the making of this video anyways. The 5 angled pads, the 6 floating pads that move in a weird pattern, the 5 pads that move left to right, and the blizzard fan variant. 5 angled pads. You dive onto the floor pad, aim for this pad right here, and then dive right when you're about to hit it. And aim your character to the next pad in line and dive right when you're about to hit it, and then dive onto the floor pad. This, in my opinion, is the easiest of the 4 variants to speedrun through. 6 floating pads. This is definitely the trickiest section to speedrun through in my opinion. The reason being is just the way the pads move themselves is very unusual. Dive onto the floor pad and then aim for this pad right here and dive onto the pad in front of you and just do that again, and you should be done with this section. The key is to make sure the first pad is directly in front of you and it's easy from there. The 5 slithering left to right pads. You dive onto the floor pad and then dive onto the very first pad in front of you. You then float to the 3rd pad and then dive onto that and finally hit the 5th pad. This is definitely the easiest way to pass this section. Another way to do this is to dive onto the 2nd, 3rd, and then float to the last pad in line. This variant is the only one where I recommend you float instead of just quickly dive cancel. Blizzard fan. Dive onto the floor pad and aim for the fan and use the wind to blow you to the next pad in line, and then do the same thing until you reach the end of the section. A more easy way to do this section is to aim for the fan and use the wind to blow you to the pads on the left side. Once you reach the final platform, you dive onto the floor pad and then immediately cut your airtime by diving onto the floating pad. You then proceed to dive cancel onto the angled pads at the end. Here's a run you guys can hyper analyze. It is my fastest time on Lily Leapers yet, a time of 29 seconds and 42 milliseconds. Also, thank you guys for almost 5,000 subscribers.